Today, me and Kate are going to share a book with you. And if you know me, I love books just as much as I love chickens or anything else. But this little story right here was one of my favorite stories when I was a kid. And now it's one of Kate's favorite stories. But it's called Liza Lou and the Yellow Belly Swamp by Mercer Mayer. And we're going to read it to you today. Since we've been quarantined and all booked up in the house, we've been reading a lot, and we decided that we would try to share something with you. So here we go. Liza Lou and the Yellow Belly Swamp. Liza Lou and the Yellow Belly Swamp by Mercer Mayer. One fine day, Liza Lou's mother said, "Apple Dumpling, I want you to take this tote bag full of sweet potatoes over to Grandma's house and cook them up for her. She's feeling mighty poorly. But mind you, careful around that Yellow Belly Swamp." "I will, Mama," said Liza Lou as she set off along the old swamp road. She'd heard tell about a good-for-nothing swamp halt thereabouts who snatches away children, and no sooner did she come to an old abandoned shed that she heard a terrible moaning and a howling. Sure enough, out of the broken window jumped a pale, nasty swamp haunt. "Liza Lou," that swamp haunt moaned, "I'm gonna snatch you away." "Oh, Mr. Swamp Haunt," cried Liza Lou, "snatch me away if you must, but please, oh please don't snatch away my tote bag full of sweet potatoes." Now a swamp haunt may be good at snatching, but he's none too good at catching on. Lickety-split, he snatched that tote bag right out of Liza Lou's hand. "Oh no," cried Liza Lou, "whatever you do, don't carry those sweet potatoes over to my grandma's house. Please, oh please don't cook them up in a pan." But before you could say, "Yeller belly cottonmouth possum up a tree, you can catch the swamp fever, but you can't catch me," that good-for-nothing swamp haunt ran clear through the swamp to Grandma's house, just so's he could cook up those sweet potatoes and make Liza Lou miserable. Now Grandma loved fresh cooked sweet potatoes, but she surely didn't like no good-for-nothing swamp haunt messing around her kitchen. So before she sat down to eat, 1, 2, 3, she picked up a still hot frying pan and shooed him right out the door. By that time, Liza Lou was safe at home having a fine sweet potato dinner with her mother. The very next morning, Liza Lou's mother said, "Sugar Plum, I want you to pole across that swamp and take these hot huckleberry muffins to your Auntie Jane. But mind you, hurry over, because there's no sense dilly-dallying in that Yellow Belly Swamp." Liza Lou did as she was told. No dillying under the bobcat, no dallying by the cottonmouth, and not a bit of dilly-dallying along the alligator. By and by, she came to Auntie Jane's. After a tasty lunch of black-eyed peas with huckleberry muffins for dessert, it was time to pole back home. "Liza Lou," said Auntie Jane, "if you will take this soiled Sunday go meeting finery and boil it up and scrub it up real clean for me by next Friday, I'll bake you a pecan pie of your very own. But get on home real quick now, so's you won't be out in that Yellow Belly Swamp after dark." Liza Lou didn't have to be told twice. She knew all about that wicked swamp witch lurking in the reeds. If ever she caught you, there is no telling what she'd do. Well, no sooner had Liza Lou poled around a big clump of cottontails than a gnarled hand reached out and grabbed her. "Liza Lou," the swamp witch cackled, "I'm gonna boil you in a big pot of water, and I'm gonna chew all your bones." "Oh, swamp witch," cried Liza Lou. "Boil me in your big pot of water if you must, and chew on my bones as much as you like. But please, oh please, don't boil this precious little child I've got cradled in my arms." Now everybody knows that a swamp witch is meaner than a stomped-on polecat, but not everybody knows that she is blinder than a cave bat. Quicker than a blink, that old witch grabbed up a bundle of Sunday-go-meeting finery and pitched it into a boiling water. She snickered as she stirred and stirred, but just because a swamp witch can't see worth a toot doesn't mean she can't sniff out a lie. "I don't smell no little child a-cooking in this pot," she said suspiciously. "Why, Miss Swamp Witch," said Liza Lou, sweet as syrup, "then maybe you should smell a little closer." So the Swamp Witch leaned way over in the pot, and she sniffed, and she sniffed. "There ain't no little child in this pot at all," growled the witch. But before you could say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the double, if you mess around me, it's a mess of trouble, Liza Lou pushed that old swamp witch splat into the pot of boiling water. With a hoot and a holler, the witch leaped right back out again and skedaddled into the swamp, a-screeching with all her might. After a while, the Sunday-go-meeting finery was boiled all nice and clean, so Liza Lou fished it out and went home. When Friday came, her Auntie Jane baked her a pecan pie of her very own, which Liza Lou shared with her mother. "Honey child," Liza Lou's mother said one sparkling afternoon, "take this wagon load of junk and pitch it in the dump. But mind your P's and Q's down there by that Yellow Belly Swamp Bridge." Now Liza Lou took good advice when she got it, but she'd been warned about that slithery gobbledygook living under that old swamp bridge. If ever she heard anyone crossing, up he slithered and gobbled that person for dinner. No sooner had Liza Lou crossed the rickety old bridge than sure enough, the gobbledygook creeped up out of the mucky goo and said, my, here comes dinner." "Why, whatever can you mean by that, Mr. Gobbledygook?" said Liza Lou, bold as brass. "That means I'm gonna gobble you up right here and now." "Oh, that does make me feel better," said Liza Lou. "Gobble me up if you must, go right ahead, but please, oh please, don't gobble up this valuable treasure I'm a-trucking in my wagon." Well, a gobbledygook, he doesn't know what a treasure is from what it isn't. He just likes to gobble. So he asked greedily, "Is this treasure any good for gobbling?" "Nobody gobbles treasure," said Liza Lou. "Everybody saves it." "Child," said the gobbledygook, "don't you tell me what I can do, 'cause I gobbles up anything I like. And the first thing I'm gonna gobble is this treasure." And he commenced to gobbling up the whole wagon load of junk. When he was done, he turned to Liza Lou. "Now, I'm gonna gobble you up." But try as he might, he couldn't even stand. He had gobbled far too much junk. That rickety old swamp bridge began to creak and sway, and before you could say, "Catch a turtle, catch a snake, catch a little froggy," if you throw cornbread down the well, it's gonna get real soggy. That slithery gobbledygook sank, gulp, glub, back into the mucky goo where he belonged. Well, thought Liza Lou as she drove her mother's empty wagon back home, that bridge never was too safe anyway. Bright and early the very next day, Liza Lou's mother said, "Hush, puppy, I want you to take this jug of blackstrap molasses over to the parson's wife." So she did, and the parson can have some with his breakfast hotcakes. But mind you, be most particular when you pass the old well as at the far side of the Yellow Belly Swamp. "I will, Mama," said Liza Lou, because she knew all about that sly swamp devil who lived at the bottom of the well. If he ever caught anyone passing by, he jumped down inside the ear and stole his soul away. Well, Liza Lou got to the well, and there sat that swamp devil just a-waiting on her. "Liza Lou," he said, "I'm gonna jump down in your ear and steal your soul away." Now, a swamp devil is mighty tricky, so Liza Lou knew she'd better do some pretty fancy thinking. "Oh, Mr. Swamp Devil," she said, "I sure am glad to hear that. I thought you might steal away the soul I'm keeping safe inside this jug. Now, what would I want with just any old soul?" said the devil, grinning. "It's your soul I want, Liza Lou." "Thank goodness," sighed Liza Lou, "because it's the parson's soul I've got inside my jug, and it would just be awful if you ever stole that." Of course, there's nothing in the whole wide world a sly swamp devil likes more than a parson's soul. "Open up that jug, child," he wailed, "and you just let me see the parson's soul." Well, Liza Lou let him take a peek. "I don't see nothing down there except molasses," sneered the swamp devil. "I'm glad enough of that," said Liza Lou. "I was afraid you might jump down inside and get a better look." "Well, that's exactly what I'm going to do," said the swamp devil, and before you could say, cats are sneaky and a fox is sly, but the devil's best friend is a bluebottle fly. That swamp devil turned himself into a fly and buzzed right down into the jug. "There ain't nothing down here at all," hollered the devil. "Oh, yes, there is, Mr. Swamp Devil," said Liza Lou. "You are." And with that, she pushed the cork into the jug real tight. Then Liza Lou delivered the jug just as her mother had told her, and the parson and his wife sat right down to enjoy a nice breakfast of hotcakes and black-strap molasses. The parson's wife poured some over her hotcakes. "Why," she said, "there's a fly stuck in this molasses." "Well, my sweet," said the parson, "why don't you just swat it?" And that's exactly what she did. As for Liza Lou, she skipped all the way back home to her mother, and from that day to this, no one has ever seen hide nor hair of devils, gobbledygooks, witches, or haunts in the Yeller Belly Swamp, and no one misses them either.